Hi there, welcome. My name is Lynn Robinson and I'm a Pilates teacher, and I'm going to talk to you about spinal flexion movements in Pilates. Now, spinal flexion is when you bend your spine forward into a C shape. We all need to be able to bend forwards and flex our spines for everyday activities and movements. And generally, this is very safe to do and won't cause a spinal fracture. However, overflexing your spine can occur if you push yourself to the limits, especially with uncontrolled, repetitive or sudden movements, and you add some extra load when you're in that position. This might put uneven amounts of pressure on the front part of your spine and may make spinal fractures more likely. Now, it's very important to say that Pilates is generally very safe if the movements are performed correctly, and these suggestions are just a precaution to be on the safe side. We're giving you the information to help you feel more positive and confident about doing Pilates, not to frighten or worry you. There have been very few reports of people getting fractures when they exercise, and Pilates has many benefits for bone health. It can help with improving muscle strength, helping to promote bone strength. It can improve balance, helping to keep you steady and prevent slips, trips and falls. It can also improve confidence, help with relaxation, pain and general well-being. I want to show you some of the movements that you've told us you worry about, and then together we can find out whether they're safe for you to continue or whether we can find an adaptive version for you to do. Now, with me today is Cheryl, and she will be demonstrating these movements, and if necessary, we'll show you modified versions or alternatives if they're more beneficial. Now, if you know you've had a spinal fractures in the past because of osteoporosis, it may be particularly important to amend an exercise, so I'll be sure to let you know as we move through them. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Now, the first exercise we're going to show you is a roll down. Cheryl, would you like to come onto the mat? So the purpose of a roll down is to improve the flexibility of your spine and your hips. Off you go, Cheryl. And done correctly, as Cheryl is doing, it isn't a problem. But a problem will come if you overflex your spine, in particular because you haven't got any support in this position. So you have the load of the body against gravity. It can put a bit too much pressure on the front of your upper spine, like this. So you're going to have more control if we take the exercise to the wall. So let's try this version. So coming to the wall, have your feet away from the wall and have your back on the wall. Don't worry if your head doesn't touch the wall. It's important you don't force your head back. And then now if Cheryl demonstrates coming forward, she's going to slide her hands down her thighs, and that's going to slow her down a little bit so she controls it, but it's also going to give her support. Now, only go as far as you can control the movement, no further. And then really enjoy the coming back up. This is the really good bit. So you're really restacking the bones to come up tall. Now, usually there's a wall in your studio or where you're exercising, but if you can't do the wall version, we can try the cat. So if we come back to the mat, now the cat is in a 4-point kneeling position, and this way you've got support with your hands and your knees. It has the same purpose as a roll down, mobility of the spine and the hips. So now Cheryl rolls sequentially through the spine, creating an elongated and even C shape. It's that length in the spine that's so good. And then she unravels, comes back to her neutral, and then you could even shine your breastbone forward to get a little bit of upper spine extension. And then back to neutral. Fantastic, Cheryl, thank you. We're going to look at rolling like a ball, and exercises like that, the seal. Now, the purpose of rolling like a ball is to mobilize the spine, to massage and to stretch it. But as you can see, in order to roll like a ball, you've got to curl yourself right up into a ball. You're not going to be able to roll if you're flat. And the problem of doing it with this amount of pressure is it can put a little bit too much pressure onto the spine. We can't really find an alternative way of doing rolling like a ball, but if you want to stretch your spine, the cat's a good alternative. We're going to look at a series of exercises now. They're classical exercises that are very strong abdominal exercises that mobilize your spine and your hips. Cheryl's going to demonstrate them in a sequence. The first one is the single leg stretch. As you can see, she curls up and one leg stretches away and then changes in. And then she's going to go to the double leg stretch and the 100 and the scissors, or single leg low as it's sometimes called, and crisscross. And as her grand finale, she's going to do a roll up as well. Slightly different exercise, but another very strong abdominal exercise. Beautifully done. Now, Cheryl has been doing Pilates for many years, and her body is used to these movements. She's really strong. If that's the case and you're really enjoying it, it's okay to continue. But as you can see, for some of those positions, Cheryl stayed curled up, and there was the added load of her limbs moving as well. And this can place a lot of strain on the front of your upper spine. Now, there are alternative ways to do this, and we'd like to suggest that you use a wedge. Now, wedges are quite common in Pilates classes. We use them for pregnancy as well. And what the wedge is going to do is it's going to give Cheryl some support to her spine, so she's not having to hold herself in this curled position. Now, you can't use it for the roll up, but you can for the single leg stretch and the double leg stretch and scissors, if you just do those ones. The other alternative, you could leave your head down, but the problem with the head down position is that you have to be really strong. It's almost harder than the original version in order to do it safely, because otherwise the movement of your legs can pull your lower spine into an arch. Now, if you don't have a wedge and you don't want to do the full classical version, we have lots of ways of working your abdominals strongly. So we'd like to suggest that you try some stability exercises instead. Exercises like the knee fold and the leg extension. So you've still got the single leg stretch, leg movement, or you could even do arm circles to make it like a double leg stretch. Now, Cheryl's still using her abdominals strongly to keep control of her pelvis and the spine. So don't worry, we've plenty of ways of working your abdominals. Hip rolls is a wonderful exercise for mobilizing the spine in rotation. But there's a version that you can do with the feet up off the floor. And the problem with this version is that as Cheryl comes across, the weight of her legs puts a real strain onto her low back. So unless your abdominals are really strong, it could cause a problem. Now, you could place a big Swiss ball here if you have one, but far better would be to bring the feet down and to do the hip roll version with your feet on the floor. That way, you're supported. Fantastic. Rollover is a classical Pilates exercise, but it's a very strong abdominal exercise. It mobilizes the spine. Cheryl's going to demonstrate it now. And you'll see as she does this that you need very strong abdominals, and it also places a lot of pressure on your upper spine and also on your neck. You also need good hamstring length as well. So what we feel will be a more beneficial exercise to do that will mobilize your spine and is another inverted type of exercise is a spine curl. And here, Cheryl is mobilizing her spine and her hips. She's coming through flexion and extension, but she's not coming up too high. She's not putting any pressure on her neck. She's not coming up into a high bridge or a shoulder bridge. And then slowly, bone by bone, she controls as she comes back down. Thank you, Cheryl. We're going to look at saw and spine stretch forward now. They're seated exercises, and they work on mobilizing your spine in flexion and rotation. So first the saw. First Cheryl rotates, and then she flexes forward as she reaches past her little toe. Now, the problem with this is you can see you end up in a position where you're really flexed forward and rotated, and we feel this could put a little bit too much pressure on your upper spine. So we'd like to suggest an alternative version. First of all, we'd like to bend the knees, because sometimes tight hamstrings make you bend further forward. So with the knees bent, and now instead of bending forwards, Cheryl's going to hip hinge from her hips. She's moving her spine in one piece, and she's reaching high Just do the same towards me, Cheryl, so they can see the difference between the two. So first you rotate and then hip hinge. Her spine moves forward in one piece, reaching high, so we avoid reaching down or forward. And then with the spine stretched forward, the original version, you're flexing forward here, and there's a risk of over flexing the spine. So instead, we're going to suggest again you bend your knees, just take the pressure off your hamstrings and hinge forward, moving the spine in one piece, moving from the hips. Fantastic, thank you, Cheryl. Some of you have expressed concern about the exercise called the cat, so let's have a look at that. It's a 4-point kneeling exercise and it works on mobilising your spine and your hips. And we feel it's perfectly safe to do because you're supported and you're moving your spine in a very controlled way. And the position you end up in is a lovely, long, elongated C curve. It's an even curve of the spine. No part of the spine is curving more than the other. And then articulating the spine and sequentially coming up. And if you do the extended cat, you can shine your breastbone forward and get length through the upper spine as well. So it's a lovely exercise to do, so feel free to enjoy it. Curl-ups and oblique curl-ups are very popular exercises in a Pilates class. So let's have a look at those. So with the curl-up and oblique curl-up, you're mobilising your spine and you're working on your abdominals again. But the problem is with the curl-up and oblique curl-up is that you're pulling your spine up against gravity and there's a lot of load. And if your abdominals aren't very strong, it's your spine that may take the strain. Now, if you've been doing curl-ups and oblique curl-ups for years and you can do them smoothly with control, it's probably perfectly safe for you to continue to do them. But we have other ways to work your abdominals with our stability exercises. So let's have a look at those. You could do a knee fold and then do an abduction with your leg. So here Cheryl is using her abdominals strongly to control her pelvis and her spine to prevent any unwanted movement. The other option is life tends to bring us forward anyway. We're often in a flexed posture just from our everyday activities. It might be more beneficial, in fact it would be more beneficial if you worked on taking your spine the other way, on curling your spine into a back extension. This will mobilise the spine and also strengthen your back. So exercises such as the diamond press, the dart and the star are particularly beneficial for bone health. If you go to a Pilates studio, the studio equipment can support you in some of the movements we've been talking about, and therefore they may be safe to do. However, the equipment also has the potential to overload the spine, so you need to talk it through with your teacher. Now, as we get older, past 50 or 60, our spinal bones begin to get weaker naturally, and we may even be at risk without realising it. Now, if you've been doing Pilates for a long while, please continue to do so and enjoy it. But if you're new to Pilates or you haven't been doing it that long, you might be best to decide to do some of the modifications or alternatives we've shown you. We really hope you found the information helpful.